Welcome to the Big Biz Show.
Taking care of business.
You want fast-talking, hard-hitting discussions on business and finance? Maybe with a barroom slant and some really salty peanuts? We're not counting calories. We're counting cash. Before we get to the man with the financial plan, meet the money team. Costa, Mary, and Greg. Now Captain Finance himself, Sully.
From the Loft 100 studios here in Southern California, wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, a big old howdy to you, as we say. Costa, our executive producer, Greg Tariff, and of course, Sully.
But do we say that, Greg?
Do we say that? Yeah, it literally is written in the contract. You must say a big old howdy to you.
Well, considering there's no contract, I'm going to say...
You saying I'm lying?
Good to see you today. Let's go straight to our punctrepreneur, our analyst, Howie Font. Howard.
Hello.
So does this stock market look like awful lot like the Donald Trump's first few months in office on his first presidency? Because I sort of feel like he's going to come in and be the hero here shortly. After all the tariff talk has tanked the market for a few days, and he's going to come into the rescue. This all seems so contrived to me, Howie.
Well, listen, I mean, the market is a measure of present day on the ground data. So we're always going to see it pricing things in that are going to happen in the future, that it thinks it's going to happen in the future. And so we're always going to be talking about the news of the day. So let's just get a trader's mindset going here and know that we're looking at headlines and, you know, this probably is going to shake out fine. But yeah, today everyone is worried about tariff week. April 2nd is what the president's calling Liberation Day. I will say, though, to your point, you know, Ronald Reagan's first 2 years in office in 1980, they were hard. He kind of instigated a recession. They had really high interest rates, and they needed to bring those down, and that hurt the economy. And it took the whole 2 years, and you know the midterms were bad for him.
Well, so talk about tariffs and the reality, because it seems like sort of a Cold War in terms of Donald Trump and the other countries, because there's a lot of bloviating and threatening going on. But really, is it all going to come to pass? Is it coming to fruition? And how bad is it going to be?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think a lot of people have been speculating about. We've seen tariffs come on and then come off and then have exemptions, but we're now 3 days away. So this is peak nervousness, I would think, for the market. And after everything's announced, after we actually see what the policies are on April 2nd, we'll actually be able to have a rational discussion about these things. It's just the nervousness that's building up right now.
Howie, I don't know about you, but I'm celebrating Liberation Day by cutting down a tree and burning a tire out in my backyard. As far as that is concerned, how does Liberation Day affect, let's say, like Canada or Mexico or China, or are they mutually exclusive?
Well, they're all a little bit different. The president has made clear that it's going to be a reciprocal policy. So we're going to put whatever you put on us, we're going to put back on you in kind of the equal weight. So we don't have the same kind of low cost of labor industry that China has. But if they put, you know, $10 billion worth of goods, tariffs on that amount, then we'll find $10 billion worth of goods that we can put back on them. So that's kind of how they're balancing the scales. And for Canada, you know, they've responded. They've announced their own reciprocal tariff. So it is building up, like Sully said, this Cold War, these big trading barrier walls. Now, hopefully, the idea is you use all this to say, unless we want this as a status quo where we're all going to be worse off,
right,
let's just wipe away all these barriers. You've been unfair to us. We're trying to level the playing field. If you want everything to come down, we're happy to do that. That's the ideal.
Howie, I want to find out where we're going to hide out, but let's take a break first, and we'll go to that because there's a way to hide out. I mean, there's a way to make money here.
Oh, not physically, like go hide out somewhere. Oh, okay.
There's a way to hide out against these tariffs and still make money in the market or make money investing. It's like when gas prices go up, go buy a share of gas stock. It mitigates the gas price at the pump. There's a way to do this because there's one asset that is moving very quick, very fast, and I think you probably know what it is, but we'll talk about it. We'll get back to the break. Big Biz Show, BigBizShow.com.
The Loft 100 Studios, wherever you're watching, wherever you are in this wide world of ours. Welcome back to the Big Biz Show. Our executive producer is Greg Todorov, that handsome gent right there. I'm Costa, standing in for Sully. Of course, the gentleman on stage, best in the business. Day Trader Trio. Always along for the ride with us as well. Thanks, guys. Our market analyst is Howie Font. He is back with us. Here, we are talking about Trace is in the background doing jazz hands as the music comes on for Howie. Howie, the theater world and how AMC is trying to, I guess, stay relevant, stay afloat. How would you describe them with the changes they're making?
I think it's important to talk about it in the context of inflation, right? So the normal theater demands what, like a $8-9 ticket?
Yeah.
You're not getting into a 4D premium seat for $17 on average nationally. So it has to do with that. And then I just note, some things are really stable, rice or something like consumer staples. But tuition for colleges and apparently movie tickets have increased, 129% over and above inflation. In the last 25. I think I told you guys 35. It's the last 25 years.
Wow. So it is
put inflation on top of everything, and then 130%.
Exactly.
So,
but isn't stuff like going to the movies or we always say fast food, dining out, aren't those the first things that normally we as consumers cut when the belt tightening has to take place, like we might be experiencing right now in our country?
No, I mean, I think that's exactly right. And that's why they're, so cyclical as businesses, really dependent on the consumer, as you said, so really dependent on the macroeconomy. And then two, the box office in general is going down, so they have to charge higher and higher ticket prices just to kind of maintain the levels. I mean, we're not back to where we were in terms of box office compared to pre-pandemic, 2019. So will they ever recover? Will it ever be the same? You have streaming now. I just thought it was a good example to see, what the average consumer could have done a decade or two ago that is getting more and more out of reach now.
Well, Howie Font is our Big Biz Show market analyst with us here. Howie, the NFL, NHL, NBA, Major League Baseball will never be able to catch up to or surpass the home experience. I mean, you've got people like us who love to go to games once in a while, that type of thing. But being at your own house, using your own clean bathroom, buying your own less expensive beer or food and stuff, the sporting leagues, the major league sporting leagues and collegiates, college athletics for that matter, they'll never be able to surpass that. And do you think movie theaters, movie chains, those type of movie houses know that's kind of what they're competing with, that the home experience, streaming, whatever, having it at your fingertips is something that they'll never be able to catch?
Yeah, I think the middle section of product offerings is always going to be squeezed. So you have the really, really cheap option that gets you in the door, the minimum, and then it only makes sense to do the high margin, really nice experience. I'm going out because this is an event. I want to go to the movies because, they're going to treat me right. I like the chair. This is a big movie for me. But if it's just another thing that I'm going to watch on a Tuesday night, I guess I'll just use the streaming service. Or, with sports, you go to the Super Bowl, you don't go to some, third-rate college.
If you're going to spend your money, you're right. Spend your money on the big ticket that you're going to remember instead of just some arbitrary game. We've been talking about tariffs. We've been talking about recession. We've been talking about inflation. Financially right now in this country, should we, as consumers, be thinking it's going to get better or it's going to get worse before it gets better?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question. I think if you're in one of these protected industries, you're going to have a couple good years. So we talked a couple months ago about the ports. They have new deals that are protecting their salaries for the next couple of years. The auto workers unions right now are very, very happy because of the tariff conversation. So if you've been in a kind of beat up industry, then you might see a couple years of relief. If you don't believe the tariffs are long term going to work or be part of anything, that's a one-time boost, and then it's going away. And then all those boosts come at the expense of everyone in general in terms of prices. So, if the price of all food goes down by 5% in the country, that's a savings to everyone in the country. But if you make more money and everyone else's food prices go up, yes, you are better off, but it's a balancing act. So that's kind of the dynamic that's happening here.
The tariffs that Canada and Mexico, China for that matter, levy against us, or we know there's a trade deficit. It's grossly unfair. The tariffs that President Trump and his administration are going to or have already levied against those three countries, we hear Canada talking tough. Oh, it doesn't matter, we'll be fine. Mexico, doesn't matter, we'll be fine. China says the same thing. But how rough will it get for them if these are prolonged, in your estimation?
Yeah, so one of the advantages that we have, and one of the reasons why this is a good fight to pick for the U.S., notwithstanding the market reaction, is we're a services-based industry. We do things for each other, and that's how we make money and move our economy. We don't make stuff to the extent that China and Mexico do. Canada's more similar to us, but they have some agricultural products and energy products that we definitely need and want. So it's really going to hurt a country like China that is very manufacturing dependent. Their whole economy is based on the prices of the stuff that they sell to us and the rest of the world, and we're their biggest trading partner. So it's going to be a blow. And then for us, the reciprocal nature of the tariffs, I would hate to be on the other end. If you're a farmer and you have a 15% increase in prices in China, you're going to sell less soy and wheat to China, but they can't hurt us beyond that.
So in the case of, let's say, Canada and Mexico, who basically north and south of us are our next door neighbors, is it just a very quiet white flag, a back channel? Okay, we give up. We'll come back to the negotiating table with you guys. Or do you think those two countries are going to see how far they can go and really feel the sting, in fact, before they come to us and say, time to talk?
I think if there's one clear ask, if there's a definite proposal that's put forward by the Trump administration, they probably fight for just giving them 70% of what the administration asked for, and then they call it a day. I think everyone at the table right now, Europe, Mexico, Canada, even China, would be willing to have some sort of agreement if they knew what it was and if it wasn't going to change. I think what they have to really hunker down for, and this is what will keep them opposed to any kind of deal, is if the goalpost keeps changing, if we move the ask all the time, if it's not considered a stable agreement, if we're just going to do this again in 3 years. So that's what needs to change. If we have a solid ask, then I think we get it, because we're in such a strong situation.
He's our Big Biz Show market analyst, Howie Font, with us here. So Howie, we've seen how the markets respond to positive news. If we do have that day, and maybe it's going to be Liberation Day, who knows, from President Trump, but we get the day where Canada's playing ball, Mexico's playing ball, China, you really never know with China. But would you expect that the response from the markets will be staggeringly positive?
Right. So one of the things that Sully talks about when we talk about tariffs on the show is how he thinks Trump's in control of all this. And that's because Trump is the great disruptor.
Yes.
And what's causing all this is not really so much the tariff policies in and of themselves, but like I've said before, it's the uncertainty. And Trump has the ability, like no other person on the planet, to raise the level of uncertainty in the market and lower it. So if he lowers that level of uncertainty, we're going to see the market skyrocket. I don't know if that's a one-time thing. Then we'll be able to move on and see, the merits of the policies, and that'll carry the market even further. But that's kind of the easy control that he has. And like I was saying in last week's show or earlier in the week, it doesn't really much matter for Trump because he wants interest rates lower. I mean, he's going to think politically. We've talked about it before. We pay more on interest payments on our debt than we do for the Department of Defense. He wants interest rates to be lower, so that amount is lower. So if the economy has a bad quarter or two and the Fed has to lower rates, that's not bad for President Trump either.
It's really going to be interesting to see what he does, in fact, in his third term when he's the president of the United States.
He hasn't ruled it out.
Big Biz Show market analyst Howie Font. Howie, we'll talk to you soon, brother. Appreciate it. All right, don't you, anybody, none of you out there go anywhere. Big Biz Show returns after this. Big Biz Show rolling on. We're inside the Loft 100 studios here in Southern California. That is the Day Trader Trio. Best in the business. And back here at the bar, it is Costa, it is Mary Burt Godwin, and of course, it is Sully.
What? I was just drinking some of James's
What is that? You're
probiotic
drinking?
kombucha, which is also my gang name. And the new name of the band.
I love it.
Ladies and gentlemen.
It's a lot on a t-shirt.
Kirk Huntsman, my good friend from Vivos. Before we bring Kirk on, actually let's bring Kirk on first because so many good things are happening with Kirk. There was an 8K he put out. 8K is when there's a material event in a publicly traded company that you have to announce that something material happened. And just a reminder, I got so many emails the other day. Our good friend Les Goldman, my longest running client, longest running guest in the publicly traded markets, passed away last weekend. And it was a horrible thing, but I got a lot of people emailing about that. But that was a reason there was an 8K on that. That was a material event. So sorry, Les, to use your legacy is to do infotainment and to educate. Kirk had a lot of stuff. Kirk, great to see you. Before we get to you though, give us the latest on your journey with obstructive sleep apnea and your oral device from Vivos Life.com. And
I just visited Dr. Perps, Sabine Perps, my dentist, who is helping me in my Vivos journey, and we adjusted the oral device a little bit, and it's working out swimmingly, and I feel great. But Kirk, Mary just asked me during the break, how is the snoring going? And I said,
you slept through it all. You never do. You snore anyway.
My wife, she will not wake up in the morning and say, I know when you came to bed because you immediately lay down and start snoring. She doesn't know when I come to bed anymore.
Well, that's not new.
Well,
and that's not why.
No, but Kirk, there's no more elbowing, there's no more kicking, there's no more honey roll over, God please, and there's no more she's waking up exhausted. Because I'm not snoring and I'm not waking up exhausted.
And the reason I wanted to bring this up, Kirk, is because this is an oral device on the silent killer of obstructive sleep apnea that you started doing, 4 months ago now? It was about 5 months?
No, we're about 6 or 7 months into it.
Yeah, and you've lost weight, you're sleeping better. And the reason I wanted to bring that up is because of your sleep center acquisitions that you're talking about, and the 8K events that you're talking about kind of go hand in hand on why you're becoming so successful in that business and new revenue model. Kirk, great to see you. Talk about what's going on there, because that was really falls right in line with what Mike's experiencing with all your new patients.
Yeah, so this is all in connection with the acquisition of Sleep Center of Nevada. This is one of the larger sleep testing groups in the entire Western United States. They're the largest in Nevada, but they test a lot of patients. And the good news is that now that we've had some time to sort of look under the sheets and see what we bought, we are thrilled to report that we're seeing some huge success. It's exceeding all of the expectations that we had laid out for ourselves, our forecasts. We have deployed already 1.5 what we're calling sleep optimization teams. And these guys are, each team, we've identified the ability to generate about $500,000 in net revenues per month. The cost of that team is, just in labor costs is about 20%. So we have a huge profit margin potential there, very accretive revenue and very profitable revenue for Vivos. So
did you think in the beginning, because you were just selling devices in the beginning, first of all, it was a biopharma, bio device company that had to get through FDA, had to get through all the trials and testing and safety and such, and you were just going to sell devices. Now this is a new funnel. Did you know this funnel was coming in the beginning, or is this something that was a mother of invention, a necessity, or was it simply something that was on the radar from the very beginning?
This management team has been led to this point. We originally started before I put Vivos together. I actually was one of the pioneers in the dental practice roll-up called the DSO business, and so my management team has extensive background in operating professional practices. So when we came to the realization that the dental community was just not going to carry the water for us as a channel of distribution, we were able to pivot into something that was right up our alley in operating professional clinics. So we went out and bought this first one in Nevada. We've got several of them really across the country. My team gave me a great report about an hour ago of another one out in Maryland. So we've got literally opportunities that are just coming in every week of practitioners that are hearing what we're doing. And the key thing is that they've been working with CPAP for years and years, and they know it's a terrible option. And so when they hear that we have a FDA cleared for severe treatment and it's safe and it's effective, they are calling us to get on board, and it's just so gratifying. It's just, we're going to be able to scale this business now in ways we had, to your question, no, I never really thought. I thought the dentists were going to carry the water for us. They're not going to do it. So
well, I mean,
we're doing it ourselves.
But who better to sell your product than you? I mean, that really comes down to basics, right? I mean, it's you've got boots on the ground there with your sleep optimization folks, and it's converting.
Kirk Huntsman, he and his team have literally given me a significant part of my life back. CEO of Vivos, Vivos Therapeutics, ticker symbol is VVOS.
Hey, Kirk, I have a couple of questions for you, but first I want to know if your ears were ringing on Saturday night, because I was sitting around with a bunch of my girlfriends, and I swear 4 out of the 5 of them were complaining about their husband snoring. And there was a 10, 20-minute conversation.
Remember the conversations you had when you were 20 and 30?
Yeah, it's a lot different now. It was hot flashes and kicking their husbands. Okay, so.
Back when you guys had book night, book club back in your 30s, is a little different conversation than.
Exactly
right.
Well,
I'll tell you, I'm thinking about some Depends after I get the
We're not there yet, but that might be in a few years. Anyway, I linked them all to your website. And so, speaking of this, it's not the dental practitioner maybe way, but to explain these sleep centers and what is the best way they're going to log onto your website, and then where are they going to be directed to? Because you're going to get at least 5 new customers.
So we still have 2,000 dentists around the country that are trained and capable of performing these services. The issue is that they're not really. It's not a driver for them in their practice. It's not a focal point for them in their practice. And so what happens is, unless somebody comes to them and asks for it, they're just not doing it. So, but it has nothing to do with the technology or the products themselves.
Right.
It has to do with the focus of the dentist. Yeah. So what we've effectively done is said, okay, when patients potentially have sleep apnea, they're typically showing up at their primary care physician, a cardiology appointment, whatever it is.
Yep.
And they're being referred to a sleep center. That's where the patients go to get tested. So there's 300,000 sleep tests a month that are performed in the United States. 90% of those patients have sleep apnea. And so what happens is that once they get this diagnosis, their biggest question is, well, now what do I do?
Right.
And the only solution is you got to go play Darth Vader every night in the bedroom. Nobody wants to do that.
Right.
And so they, I promise you, the husbands of all your girlfriends do not want to be Darth Vader in the bedroom.
Right.
And the husbands
they're having enough problems already.
And the girlfriends themselves, while they're talking, are doing this.
Exactly right. Don't mess with me. Okay?
Exactly right.
Kirk Huntsman is the CEO of Vivos Therapeutics. I'm telling you, and in all honesty, gave me my life back. Ticker symbol is VVOS. Lose the Darth Vader. But don't lose the show. We'll be right back. We are in the Loft 100 studios in Southern California. Wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, thank you for being along for the ride on the Big Biz Show. That is the Day Trader Trio. Love those guys. As I always say, no less than self-taught. Back here at the bar, it is Costa. It's Mary Burt Godwin, Marley Burt Godwin, and of course, Sully.
Mike has a body of work. What does that stand for, Michael?
Dang it, I forgot. You said it. Last time we had him on, you said it.
What?
Pick Mary. She has her hand up.
A big ol' howdy
Oh,
to
God, sorry.
Troy Hazard, my good friend, TroyHazard.com, keynote speaker, author, and good friend of the program here on the show. And I give him a hello only to ask you this real quick. Have you ever, Michael, or ever, Mary, or James, or Trace, or Brian, loaned money to a relative?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
See, I never have. I just give it away. Because
it's not a loan. It's a gift.
Well, it was presented to me as a loan.
Of course it is.
But
Just like with your dad.
Exactly.
Troy?
I swear to God, I'll pay you back.
Troy, is it the same thing when you're talking about loaning money to a relative and going to business? Because I'm not suggesting it's never a good idea to loan money to a relative. Just understand you're not going to get it back.
True.
And if you set those expectations, you're probably okay.
Going into business is way worse.
I was going to say.
It's worse than losing money to your dad.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. That's losing money you haven't got.
Well, the funny part is this is usually happening after a couple of pops around a dinner table with the whole family together during the holidays.
You got softened
Me
up.
and Troy are starting a good
In the
range.
back end of summer, everyone's been having those conversations. I hate my job. I hate my life. I want to go and do something. And then after the second or third beer, we come up with a good idea, and away we go, and we have this fabulous business idea that we fall in love with. And look, I've done that myself. I can recall a time back in 2001, I went to lunch with a mate of mine. First bottle of wine, we decided we're maybe going to buy an internet company. Third bottle of wine, we'd made an offer. It wasn't a good idea.
Always great to be making decisions when you're not 100%
alcohol
capacity.
out of it.
Talk about that, though. This is interesting because it seems like a good idea sometimes because you know them, they're family after all. You trust them and everything else. But there's, it's sort of like I tell some of my friends, acquaintances, and I don't mean to be glib about this, but I have friends who are maybe stepping out of their relationship with their girlfriend or even some gals are stepping out of it, and I say, did you play the videotape out to the end of the video? Seems like a great idea at the time, but what does it really look like? Mm-hmm. You got to do the same thing in this, right, Troy?
Yeah, look, what we need to focus on was when we're with family, we feel comfortable and we can have an open and real conversation until it gets a little bit messy. So my first, I suppose, small piece of advice is if you're going to have these conversations, make them creative, but make them constructive in that you are working towards a goal that if you do decide to go into business together, you've got it all documented. You're a partnership agreement in place. You've got all your shareholder arrangements in place. And so if something does go sideways or the pressure is felt, then it's a little bit easier for you to refer back to a document to talk your way through issues rather than trying to do it over the dinner table.
And let's talk about that because you do business in the name of good business. You do business with the purpose of going forward together, but there's a reason you have an agreement. And there's a reason, and I can tell you just in my life, I've only had 2 arrangements go south, and one of them went recently. And thank goodness I had all of my documentation in place because it was just clear that A didn't equal B in terms of this. Now, here's my question though: isn't documentation along the way, memorializing conversations via email or via text and saving those, as important as papering a deal in terms of shareholder equity operation agreement, LLC, so on and so forth?
Well, absolutely. I think when you get to a mediation process or you're having a conversation about a tough topic, then it's an opportunity to reflect back on the conversation that got you there in the first place. Because typically when those things happen, it's a miscommunication, a misunderstanding, or people have just misread the circumstance they've got themselves into. So any communication is helpful. But at the end of the day, we sometimes don't want to document it or turn it into agreement, particularly with friends or family, because we feel like that's a little bit too formal. It needs to be, because under stress and pressure, all those things are brought to the surface, and unless you've got a go-to, then it becomes a little bit messy.
It's the prenuptial problem, right, Troy? It's
It
a
is.
prenuptial.
Exactly.
Look, it's an uncomfortable thing to talk about, but you sort of need to, if you're on, if you're Leisure Suit Larry on marriage number 5 and you have some assets, maybe it's time to do to do a prenuptial agreement, and those are uncomfortable to talk about, just like agreements for operations agreements and joint venture partnerships are also uncomfortable.
Well, exactly, and with all these circumstances, communication is key. And even look, Dominic and I are our own little ecosystem in our businesses that we're involved in, but we make a real effort to go to lunch at least twice a week, to have a mini board meeting and to connect on the communication that surrounds the business operations or the investments that we're making. So just to make sure that we're away from the noise, from the kids and anybody else, and we're having a real frank conversation about what direction we want to take. And it happened as recent as yesterday. Without that continuity in those conversations, interpretation then takes control, and that's when things get a little bit out of shape.
Yeah. Troy Hazard wrote The Naked Entrepreneur, a Millionaire's Journey from Fear to True Wealth. TroyHazard.com is his website, and his shirts always match his artwork, which is pretty cool. Troy, how would you say, what do you think the percentage of people out there who they come up with this mindset, well, they're family. I don't need any sort of written documentation. I don't, handshake is the best deal. I don't need it documented.
You just can't do that. I mean, you like to think that you can trust family and friends and you know each other and you've grown up together or you've been mates for 40 years or whatever.
Yep.
But pressure does strange things to people. In fact, it reveals a character you may not really thought you had in the first place. And when that happens, it's just a go-to to have everyone back on the same page and having an adult conversation about an issue that neither of you could maybe have predicted, but it's come up in front of you and you have to work your way through it, or you stand to lose a substantial amount of everything, really, money, life.
Yeah. Troy, this is what I call the ticked off husband syndrome. The ticked off husband syndrome, or ticked off ex-husband syndrome. Let's say you're doing business with your cousin Susan. Everything's going fine until Susan gets a divorce, and ticked off Susan's husband. I mean, honestly, it's the third party sometimes that you don't look for that sort of pin somebody in a corner of having to go in a different direction than what your agreement is. I think the first thing you said is take a 50,000 view, do the paperwork in advance, but make yourself, you don't want to go in there with the idea of this is going to fail, but you know what? There's reasons that the court system is backed up 7, 8, 9 years with torts of people and claims of people getting into business disputes. You never go into this thing thinking it's going to be a business dispute, but it happens, and sometimes it's for reasons that aren't even your fault.
Well, that's it. And you make a classic example in divorce, health, people moving, children, whatever. All these things influence our lives. And in all of my agreements with my business partners around the world, we have provision for those things to get in the way. Provision for divorce, provision for some sort of sickness or even death for that matter, God forbid. These things will get in the way, and if you've got nothing to go back to reference what you're supposed to do, then it becomes total chaos. And with chaos, everyone starts to get a little bit more anxious about what the outcome's going to be, because we've all got a lot on the line, and we want to try and work through the process to make sure we don't lose everything that we've got on the line and can find a way out.
Hey, Troy, I wanted to ask you about, it seems like maybe family members might have this thing where they might want to not disclose things and maybe not fudge the truth, but, maybe not tell their...
Errors of omission.
Yeah, exactly right. Yes, exactly right. But that's a huge part of it, and that you'd think that you'd need to have that agreement up front.
Well, it's your point before Troy answers that. In a publicly traded company, okay? For example, I want to express my condolences to Northwest Bio Therapeutics. My good friend and my longest running client, Les Goldman, passed away over the weekend. They had to, because he's an executive VP of a publicly traded corporation, put a press release out.
Yeah.
Because by not doing that, or if you have a CEO of a publicly traded company that has, let's say, a life-threatening illness, you have to put the news out, because the omission of that causes people to make decisions without that. To your point, Mary, it's such a great point.
I think it would be really relevant, or what's the word I want to say? Happen often with family members, because you just think they don't need to know that little thing. Right?
Well, it is, because there's usually one member of the family or one member of the partnership, whether they're friends or family, that has the idea in the first place, and they're emotionally involved in that idea. They have they've fallen in love with the concept.
Oh no! That's not a good idea to fall in love with a deal or a stock.
Never fall in love with a deal or an asset.
Yeah.
Never, ever. But it happens all the time. So we've got to dig deeper into the real situation of what you're trying to get into or considering what you're going to get into to make sure that we've looked at the good things and the bad things. We've looked for skeletons. We've made sure we've looked at the risk that's associated with it. And moreover, we're all prepared to lose. When Dom and I make a decision to go into an investment or a new business or something, we make a decision, we are prepared to lose this much money on that arrangement, and anything more than that becomes above our risk profile. And so we're clear that it might all just disappear. But at exactly the same time, that consciousness brings up a desire to want to dig deeper to understand what the real position of the business is or the investment you're making.
Will you make the decision to come out to San Diego soon, please? Come on. I miss you.
Come on.
I haven't, my beer consumption goes way down when I'm not with Troy, which is probably a good thing.
Troy Hazard,
You got a business idea, mate, that you need to look at?
Keynote speaker extraordinaire, great friend of the show. TroyHazard.com is the website. Author, The Naked Entrepreneur, a Millionaire's Journey from Fear to True Wealth. Inside the Loft 100 studios here in Southern California, the Big Biz Show rolls on. Hope you guys are having a great day. We are, because we are listening to the Day Trader Quattro, DTC, as they're known throughout the world. Back here at the bar, it's Costa. It is Mary Bird Godwin, and of course, it is Sully.
And more importantly, it is Steve JJ Weisman, the scam man. I know that we're going to be speaking to, at some point, Corey Perlman again, who is our social media expert.
Yes.
And I know he's going to be talking about the sniff test in terms of the human test in terms of AI. Can you tell if it's AI or not?
I think we're lucky that you still can tell what is AI and what is not, but man, it is getting
I don't think everyone
really
can tell.
good.
I don't think my parents could tell.
I was going to say most people can tell, but
yeah.
I think the elderly
older generations can't.
and younger. In fact, Steve's here. Steve, is it the same? Welcome again, bud. Is it the same as it was prior when you used to say the most vulnerable to scams are the elderly and young adults? Is that still the same in your opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, it was out from California. UCLA just did another study showing that seniors are more susceptible to scams because a part of our brain that deals with skepticism becomes less viable as we age. So they are more trusting. But it is kind of interesting that the Gen Zers are a close second, and part of it is because so many scams are, contained on the internet and technology, and the kids just think they're bulletproof when using technology.
Steve, I recently saw a video online of a giant aquarium in Japan, and the glass breaks, and millions of gallons and fish and sharks and stuff pour out into all the people looking at the animals, and the sharks start biting people and stuff.
Turns out fake?
Well, I guess it was fake. Now, of course it was fake, but it's amazing the number of people like, oh my God, prayers up, all this stuff for these types of people, for the people that allegedly were eaten by the sharks at this aquarium. But I mean, how fast is it evolving, AI I'm talking about, to the point where all of us are going to be, I'm not sure if that's real or not.
Everything that we see.
Everything,
yeah,
yes.
I mean, you do have to question just about anything and everything. And part of the problem is, and along with my work in scams and white collar crime, I'm also a professor of media law. And when you talk about the sharing of things like that on social media, people share that, and they share negative stuff far more than positive, and people see it and they believe it. Mm-hmm. And right now, there's really no regulation in regards to AI as far as being able to know if it's legitimate or not. And the scammers are also using AI to create better phishing scams. And an interesting one is when you need a customer service number, you may Google it or go to a search engine, and these scammers have been able to manipulate those using AI so that AI will harvest the phony customer service numbers that are put up there by the scammers. So you think because AI is telling you this is the customer service number for Apple or Netflix or whatever, it's legitimate, but instead using AI, it's been manipulated by the scammers, and you're going to get caught.
I think it's interesting that there's even attorneys now you know how advertising agencies, Mary, suddenly turn themselves into digital marketing agencies?
Yep.
Now there's attorneys, and Steve, I was going to ask you about this, that are specializing in reputation defense when you're being accused or being, like, look, I've told you guys before that not only they're in publications or dating sites or with our likeness of just a picture of me on set. I mean, they're not even doing AI. They're just, if you're a Vortex figure anywhere, I think James is on the cover of Cat Monthly this week.
Again?
Knitting cat sweaters without his authorization. No, but Steve, this is turning into a corner of the world where the legal profession is taking it seriously, as evidenced by the fact that one guy got 10 years in prison when the prosecutor is only offering 8 years, or asking for 8 years in prison, and the damn judge got hacked in the middle of the trial. Talk about that.
Yeah, this was really good. So there's a group, a hacking group, notorious hacking group called Scattered Spider. It's a bunch of teenagers and young 20s in the UK and the United States. So these guys, though, are not small scale. They're the ones that hacked into and did the ransomware attack on the MGM Resorts and Casino and Caesars and a number of insurance companies. And they don't even use necessarily sophisticated technology. They use social engineering. They call these companies, pose as an employee, and manipulate these people psychologically to allow them to get access. So the first member of Scattered Spider was actually tried and convicted recently, and what he was doing was hacking into cryptocurrency wallets. He would get people to give him the information, and then he would call the cell phone providers who provided the dual factor authentication, the code that would be sent, and boom, he gets into their accounts. But like you said, the prosecutor was requesting 8 years in prison, but one of the other members of Scattered Spider during the trial actually hacked into the judge, and the judge was so pissed off, he said, "No, you're not getting 8, you're getting 10 years."
I mean, it doesn't get any better. Are you still concerned that we're going to see AI be so accurate that it's going to be difficult for even law enforcement to tell that you weren't at the scene of the crime when you were actually, accepting an Oscar or whatever? I mean, honestly, it's getting to the point where I can tell, but man, you got to take a look.
And some of it really is too good. I can't tell a lot of the times. Now, like you said, there are some things you can look for. Sometimes even occasionally there'll be an extra finger on someone's hand. But for the most part, it is really difficult to tell, and it's getting worse. And we don't have watermarks or regulations. And because of that, the scammers are going to be able to disrupt society in so many ways and perpetrate crimes in so many ways. It really does have me concerned.
What's interesting is and the thing that doesn't make it easy, and I'm not going to point to you, Mary, but I'm just pointing to the female in the room, is that if you take, like my daughter, for example, is on her honeymoon, and I'm seeing these pictures. My daughter, you saw the pictures of the wedding. She's gorgeous.
Yes.
But as I'm looking at it, something looks weird, so I expand the picture, and she's got a filter on the thing.
Yeah.
Filter on people's pictures nowadays look like AI.
Yes.
So when you look at AI and you try to go in, well, that must be a filter, it must be real. So remember when you put out the edict that when you get an email where there's a typographical error or grammatical error, or if there's a logo that's messed up, you need to put out the next version of your book, Steve, to talk about how to identify AI and scams, because I think that's going to be a tough one, but that's what we really need.
Yeah, actually, we're working on that, although you keep making so much work for me. Yeah, you had 5,000 scams of the day for scammers. Said, "Oh, Steve, it'll be easy. You can do that." And then why don't you write a book on it?
You even had to sell your llamas. You didn't have time to take care of them.
Oh, gosh.
Good to see you, bud.
Stephen JJ Weisman, he is the Scamicide man, the scam man. Scamicide.com is a website. Go there. Save yourself some trouble. Save yourself some money. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Big Biz Show. As always, to all of you out there for being with us, we appreciate it. We'll see you next time.